Hi guys, I'm back with another video for you today, and it's a video that I've been planning for some time, but I couldn't compile a list of 20 fragrances in this note theme. It's pears. I'm sure you guys have enjoyed some pear fragrances out there, but also I think it's because of the launch of the latest Jeroboam called Kunamo that I am highlighting this note in perfumes and talking to you about them. So I always thought that pears were not as exciting as apples, but I've come to enjoy pears. I always felt like pears did not have a very substantial smell next to apples, especially when it comes to green apples next to pears. But I think there's some fragrances here that they've taken the note of the pear and really boosted it up, really amplified the smell. So you really will smell fragrances here that are overwhelming with the pear smells. So I'm giving you a list of pear fragrances today. I somewhat kind of put it in a list of most pear smelling fragrances, least pear smelling fragrances that feature the pear note. So it's kind of not ranked, but I feel like the first fragrances I'm going to talk to you about are the most pear smelling fragrances. And the ones down the line at the end of the video will be least pear, but they still feature the note. And this is to my nose, so noses are different. You might smell something a little different from a fragrance than I will. But I consider these some of the most, actually the fragrances we're going to start with are some of the most pear-focused fragrances. And the rest of them down the line will be the least. But let me know if you have a favorite pear fragrance. Add a comment below. And there's 20 fragrances here. I'm gonna do this in a kind of a deep dive format. Not gonna be much editing here, but we're going to talk about the fragrances, smell them, and I'm gonna tell you what I think about them. But let's get started with the first fragrance. It's Kunamo from the house of Jeroboam. I just recently spoke to Francois from Javoy about this fragrance. You know, I got to smell this fragrance early in the year in February at Extrait. I really liked it at that time, and the more I wear it, the more I enjoy it. What I like about it, it's quite juicy. It's very pear forward. They call it crunchy pear or crunch pear or crunchy pear, I think. I feel like it should have been crisp pear, but it's also quite a juicy pear. And there are additional fruits along the way, citruses, and a lot of musky notes in the dry down as well. So it's a super musky take on the pear. And if you're looking for a pear fragrance, this is definitely one for you to try. Let me know if you've gotten your nose on it. It's called Kunamo by Jeroboam. I believe that ZGO Perfumery will be selling it here locally. At least it was on their website. So if you're looking to get your nose on it, you can head over there. And I also have it linked in the info box. But yeah, it's super juicy, but also quite musky. I feel like the pear is working really wonderfully with everything else that's in here. They also have a kind of a marine note, but it's more like a sea breeze note. And lots of amber and lots of woods and lots of musks. They have white musks, ambery woods, and they also have cashmeran here. I feel like this will be popular. It's quite fruity, but again, the pear note is the star note. So you've got a lot of the pear in your face. But I think some of the other pear fragrances that I'm going to talk to you about do tend to be just a bit fruitier. I feel like what's going on here, even though it's a lot of fruits, there's a lot of fruitiness here from the pear. I feel like the some of the musks and the amber woods are kind of like toning down the fruity juiciness, but still it's so fruity, it's so juicy, and also sweet as well. A fruity sweetness is present here with Kunamo. Let me know if you're familiar with Kunamo. It's the latest Jeroboam fragrance. It's an Extrait of Parfum, so it's quite long lasting. I find it to be quite sexy as well, so hopefully you'll get your nose on it. And typically, I don't consider fruity fragrances to be super sexy, but the fact that it has those musks, that's what gives me that kind of an idea of that fragrance. So next, going to the house of Laurent MAZZONE. It's Dolce Pear. You guys familiar with this? Are you guys familiar with this house? There was a fragrance from this house that I used to speak about quite a bit called Aldehydes. It's an aldehydic clean fragrance, super crisp. It's a favorite fragrance of mine, and if you love aldehydes in fragrances and you like clean, crisp fragrances, that's one for you to try. But here we have Dulce or Dulce Pear. So it's once again super juicy, and what they have going on here are pears and green apples together, and this is a great combo. I love that about this. So it's somehow the apples. I love apples in general, and also this video is perfect timing because we're on our way to head to the autumn months, and apples I kind of have, it's a very distinct smell, and it's also associated with autumn because generally they kind of ripen and you can pick them in the autumn months. And here we've got this really awesome, very fragrant combo of pears and green apples together, giving me a little bit of that apple cider vibe, which I'm addicted to the way apple cider tastes. Whether it's the hard apple cider or the fruity kind that doesn't have any alcohol, I like them both. I just love the flavor of that, especially also the flavor and smell are kind of connected together. That's what this is giving me a vibe of. But still, it's kind of sweet. It's quite juicy. It's very fruity. It's powdery as well. And this one also goes musky. Let me know if you're familiar with this. Dulce Pear. It's a great scent. And if you like the combo of apples and pear together, you've got to get your nose on that one. So this next one is probably one of the more popular that's been around for a while. It's from the house of Juliette Has A Gun. It's Pear Inc. So Pear Inc. Green Pear Accord. I think what this brand does, they used to be a bit more mature. I think that's the word I was looking for. They used to be a bit more of a mature brand, but throughout the years, they've gotten a lot more younger. So a lot of the fragrances do come off quite young, especially since they do go quite fruity, and they also go very molecular musky in a lot of their fragrances. This is a fruity fragrance featuring the green pear accord. So they've created an accord rather than using, and you know, we're sometimes not sure if it's really a fruit that they're using telling us it's the note, or are they creating an accord. Here they say it's an accord, which makes sense because to me the previous two pear fragrances smelled a bit more authentic compared to this one. This one to me smells of pears, but you can also kind of almost say it's a different kind of fruit as well. So there's like the smell of like multiple types of fruits, but it can also be a bit appley. But for sure, I think they've gotten the accord down right, so you'll be reminded of pear. But these are also very inexpensive fragrances from Juliette Has A Gun. I should say they're inexpensive, but they're not like the least expensive. But when they go to the discounters, you'll be able to get these for fairly inexpensive. But what I like about this one is, once again, it's super fruity and very musky and also powdery. So basically, the guy behind the brand, what's his name? His last name is Ricci. I'm forgetting his first name. He's related to the Nina Ricci family. But what he does is uses a lot of musky notes like ambroxan and things like that. Here we've got those, a lot of them, ambery musky notes and things like that. Of course, ambroxan and your typical synthetic musks. So it's a great, take on a powdery, fruity, musky, and ambery kind of fragrance. Somewhat simplistic, but it smells great to me. It smells of pear, but it acts a bit simplistic compared to the previous two. So that's Juliette Has A Gun Pear Inc. So we've got a fragrance I've never spoken about, but I have this fragrance in my collection for so long. I bought it off of somebody, and I finally get to speak about it. But I do speak about this brand here and there once in a while. But this one I've never spoken about, and I was going through my collection of fragrances, and I'm like, oh, I have a bottle of this. There we go. So this is from the house of Miller Harris. It's Poirier Soir. I guess that's how you say it. Are you guys familiar with this one? So Miller Harris, I discovered kind of late. I think the brand has redone themselves or rebranded. I think, is it Lynn Harris is the woman behind the brand? Did she start her own brand? Is that correct? But anyway, this is a fragrance created by Matthew Nardin, and it's a juicy take on pears, but also a little bit boozy. Once again, musky, because this also features cashmeran and ambrette note as well. So somewhat, you can kind of connect some of the fragrances together. They're kind of like finding specific notes that work wonderfully with the pear note or the pear accord. And they're creating these fragrances to, whatever notes, breakdowns work together wonderfully. Of course, you've got citruses here. You've got lots of musks. It's slightly boozy. They also have like birch tar or something that kind of adds a slight smokiness. Along the way, there's some floral notes. Caramel for some sticky sweetness. But it's a really great fresh pear fragrance. Poirier dans Soir. Let me know if you're familiar with that one from the house of Miller Harris. Again, I had bought that one from a friend who was getting rid of some of their fragrances, and I haven't spoken about it, but glad to have been able to find it here in the studio to talk to you guys about it. Let me know if you're a fan of Miller Harris. It's a UK brand, but I think Lynn Harris left the brand and launched a brand called Perfumer H. Is that correct? Perfumer H. I buy a lot of fragrances, and last August when I was in London for the launch of 54 by Juicebox, I stopped into the department store in London. Yeah, I'm drawing a blank there. It's a department store that had the wonderful collection from Perfumer H there, and I bought a fragrance called Rhubarb. But it's a great house. I enjoy Miller Harris. Let me know if you're a fan of it. Add a comment below. All right, so now that I've gotten those fragrances out of the way, the rest of the fragrances are going to slowly start being less and less pear, but we still have a pretty dominant, experience of pears in these next 3 to 5 fragrances. Next, we're going to the house of J-Scent. This is a fragrance called Tsuki Shizuku. Are you guys familiar with this fragrance? This is a fragrance that features this very interesting pear note called L'Electier. Very pear-like. But also, there's jasmine, sambac here. There's tuberose and also magnolia, so it's quite white floral. And the pear note, the word I was looking for earlier is delicate. It's a delicate fruit. It's not your in-your-face fruitiness, like peaches or what fruits are really like strong. There's a lot of fruits out there, obviously, that are very popular. Fruity fragrances are quite popular. Here, I feel like they've taken the delicate qualities of the pear in its juicy form, blended it with white flowers, including the tuberose, the jasmine, and the magnolia. The jasmine does stand out a lot here. You can kind of experience it. It's a bit indolic. So if you don't like indolic jasmine, this might not be it for you. If you do, against the juiciness of the pear and also the tuberose and the magnolia, it's quite beautiful. Does lean feminine for sure. This is Tsuki Shizuku by the house of J-Scent. Let me know if you're familiar with that. So next, one of my favorite fragrances from this house, in fact, it is my favorite fragrance from this house. This is not so much dominant pear, but you will notice the pear here. This is Soir Extrait. Love this fragrance. I don't have too much experience with the OG Soir. I should get it and do a comparison, but I absolutely love the Extrait. It's so super sexy. It's a fruity take on like earthy patchouli, so it gives me the idea maybe something like Mugler's Angel, Coco by Chanel, and things like that. Even a fragrance Oud Mazing by the house of Montal. It's giving me those kind of vibes, not smelling identical. This is a lot of musky notes. There's earthy notes, but there's also zingy notes, like ginger is here. There's a bit of chocolate thrown in. There's a lot of patchouli, chocolate and cocoa type notes are in here. So it's a great combination of fruity notes, citrusy notes, earthy notes, some gourmand notes, because there's also vanilla and benzoin. It warms up as it's drying down, but I love it. It's so yummy, so delicious. And also musky, as I mentioned, there's a lot of cashmeran. For sure, it's still my favorite fragrance from the house. I absolutely love it. It's super sexy, and it garners me compliments when I wear it. Love it. This is so yummy. Let me know if you're familiar with Soir Extrait. Do you enjoy it as much? Do you get the pear in that? The pear, I think, might be a little overshadowed by the quince chutney that's in there, but you'll notice it. It's again, the pear is a very delicate note. It doesn't shine as much, and what they've done here is left it as is, not like making it extremely fruity, but still it's there. You'll notice it for sure. But a great scent, Soir Extrait, one of my favorites from that house. But next, going to the house of Ex Nihilo, it's Blue Talisman. Yeah, pear is featured here, and I feel like the pear is perfect here. It's actually a perfect note against the type of notes that are in here. So it's a freshie in the end. It's also got ginger and lots of citruses, so that's why it's fresh. And that delicate fruitiness of the pear is in here. And there's also a lot of musks here. The other thing with this one is it's also quite Givaudan perfumer molecules focused, because we've got Ambrofix, we've got Akigala wood and Georgie wood, which are proprietary ingredients from Givaudan. The perfumer is Jordi Fernandez, I believe. But this was, first I dismissed this fragrance because I felt like it was just another basic fragrance, but the subtleties of this fragrance really grew on me, and I really, really love it now. Once again, it's super sexy because it's got those great musks in the dry down. And up top, it's quite zingy, it's quite citrusy, it's quite fresh. And of course, slightly fruity with the pear. I wouldn't call this a pear bomb, but it's got a nice presence. And the way the fragrance is constructed, the pear is the perfect fruit in this. If they throw in something like raspberry or, I don't know what, but like something super strong, fruity, it would clash too much. But the fact that they have the pear in there, it's smooth, it's blended perfectly. The pear doesn't stand out, but you'll notice its fruitiness, and it blends beautifully with all the musks. I feel like doing this video, I'm realizing the musky notes are really perfect for pear. Like cashmeran comes up quite a bit, ambrette comes up quite a bit. Here they've got the Givaudan proprietary musks, and they're working perfectly with the pear note as well. Let me know if you're a fan of Blue Talisman. Add a comment below so we can find out. Okay, the next three fragrances do lean a bit more on the feminine side. We had all unisex fragrances so far, but the next few will be more feminine leaning. First of which is a fragrance called Ananda by the house of Micallef. This has a lot of pear. So the pear is pretty prominent in this, but there's also a lot of mimosa. The mimosa is so prominent in this. If you're not familiar with mimosa, it's a very distinct smell. It's powdery, and it's a bit honeyed. And also what's the word I'm looking for? It's a little almondy. It's a slight bit almondy. You have this kind of an effect happening with this flower. It's a spring floral note, but I feel like it's also on the delicate side. It's not a super in-your-face kind of flower. It's definitely not something like Immortelle, which is like the everlasting flower. It's super strong and intense. Here, there's a delicacy about mimosa, and once again, they've added the perfect kind of fruit in here, but it also has black currants and plums in this as well. There's violets mentioned, and there's quite a juicy ozonic kind of watery effect happening. So I'm assuming it's kind of violet leaf-like. But for me, I find mimosa flower to be feminine leaning in general. So this comes off more feminine to me. That's not to say it's a bad fragrance. There's a lot of pear here. And again, it's quite juicy. The drippy kind of pear when it's been or not necessarily ripened all the way, because it doesn't smell like a very ripe pear. Because sometimes when it gets extremely ripe, it becomes stronger in smell in comparison to when it's still a bit young, but also a lot of, drippy juiciness there. So it's a very powdery offering. And again, as I said, the mimosa does have the kind of almondy powderiness. I find that mimosa and heliotrope are sort of similarly almondy powdery, but they smell different, but they act similarly almondy powdery, if that makes sense. But this is mimosa, not heliotrope. And there's a lot of other floral notes in here, along with all the fruits and some citruses. So that's Ananda from the house of M. Micallef. So next up, we've got a fragrance from the house of Louis Vuitton. It's Coeur Battant. This is a floral. It's a fruity floral, obviously. Fruity florals are very popular. This is part of the collection of feminine fragrances from Louis Vuitton, created by Jacques Cavalier. But this has got a lot of jasmine. There's musks here. There's also narcissus. There's marine notes. Ambrette seeds. I've read somewhere and I've noticed that there is a slight pear fruitiness from the ambrette note. So is that what they're doing? They're bringing out the pear qualities from the ambrette seeds to give us... That's why you see pear and ambrettes together quite a bit. There's a lot of trickery that the perfumers do. But maybe that's what it is. And maybe that's why we're getting pear here. Or maybe they're really utilizing the pear note. But this is actually acting quite marine. I'm smelling like marine notes appear. And I'm quite sensitive to the marine notes. It's not necessarily the actual marine. It's like a synthetic note to give you that kind of a marine effect. But it's quite prominent. It's powdery as well. It's floral and lots of fruitiness. It's juicy, but marine. And there is a slight chypre-like quality to it, because it does have some patchouli. So it's acting a bit like a fruity chypre because of the patchouli with like a marine edge. Let me know if you guys are familiar with this, but definitely feminine leaning for sure. Coeur Battant from the house of Louis Vuitton. And then this next fragrance from the house of Amouage, it's Guidance, the OG, but you can also go with Guidance 46. This does feature pear, but I find this to be super complex, and it's blended more than the pear standing out on its own. It stands out in a blended way. So it's got nuttiness, it's got rose floral touches, it's got fruitiness not only from pear, but also it's got fruitiness from osmanthus. But there's a smoky touch in there, there's frankincense, there's a leathery touch from saffron, it's ambery. It's a very, very complex fragrance, and turns out it's become one of Amouage's most successful fragrances from one of the most successful perfumers out there currently, Quentin Biche. It also features, it features a lot of different notes. It's a pretty complex formula, I think. It acts that way. I kind of prefer the OG a little more, but I felt like the concentrated one, the 46, a little more, because I like the fact that it goes into more of an ambery, resinous, amber woody kind of a base. And I felt like that experience kind of tones down the fruitiness, and there's more pear here with the original Guidance. But that's just my nose. I don't know if you guys get that as well. Do add a comment and let me know. Let me know if you're a fan of Guidance. I think there's, as much as there is a lot of love for this, there's also a lot of negative things I hear about it. Some of them tend to be quite naughty. I don't know what it is about this fragrance that makes people think of naughty things. But if you're one of those people, let me know why. Add a comment below. But I like the way it smells. Sure, it's got Quentin Biche's signature. It's his kind of fragrance, so he makes these kind of fragrances, and he's good at it, you know? And he makes hits with it. I feel like also there's a connection to fragrances like Delina, but I wouldn't call it similar. I wouldn't call it similar. I think this is more closer to Empatia by BDK, which is created by a different perfumer than it is to Delina. But maybe the fact that it acts similarly, I don't think it smells similar. It acts more like Delina than smells like Delina to me. Does that make sense? To me, it smells more like Empatia than it does to Delina. What are your thoughts? Add a comment below. I don't get the smell connection between Delina and Guidance. There is a creamy quality about both Delina and Guidance. So I think that's what's creating the fact that people are reminded of one over the other. I don't know. Add a comment. Let's find out. So next we go into the house of Jorum Studio. It's Spiritcask. So this is an uber complex fragrance that's super boozy, and along the way you'll smell pears too. So it has whiskey, cognac, rum, malt, pear, bourbon, lots of different notes. There's vanilla, there's oak wood. What I like about this, it really smells like a distillery, but you're underground and you're in the cave, right? You've got those barrels, right? There's that smell of antique woods, aged woods. And it becomes super boozy, lightly fruity, but so realistic. It is so delicious the way it smells. And the name is just perfect, Spiritcask. If you like boozy fragrances, this is something you gotta try if you haven't tried it yet. It's from a very small house, Jorum Studio from Edinburgh. And it is also an Extrait de Parfum, so it is quite long lasting. But I wouldn't say it's like a room filler as far as projection and sillage goes. But to me, it smells so authentic. One of my favorite things to do when I travel, especially if I'm in a region that is known for, you know, spirits and liquor and things like that, I do like to go tour, distilleries or wineries or whatever. And I've been to the city of Cognac and many other places where they, produce liquor and booze and things like that. So I like to do tours and go to their caves and see the barrels and smell that smell. And this to me is so realistic in not only smelling the booze, but also the place where it's all stored, where it's all macerating and kind of fermenting and becoming booze. And you're smelling the woods, you're smelling the interior, all rolled into one. So super awesome. If you guys haven't tried it, try Spiritcask. So going back to the pear with this one, once again, just like Guidance, the pear is there to support it. This is not a pear-focused fragrance. You'll notice it. But for me, I feel like the boozy notes and the woods are a bit more important, are a bit more of a focal point or star of this fragrance more than the pear. But the pear is there. You'll notice it. It provides its kind of, delicate qualities to enhance and give the boozy notes a bit of a fruitiness. So awesome. I know I have Paradisi as my favorite from this house, but Spiritcask is also super awesome fragrance. If you haven't tried it, please do. Okay, up next, this is the 12th fragrance, unranked list, guys. It's a fragrance that I've featured quite a bit in various videos and also have featured in a Scent Club kit. By the way, the latest Scent Club kit is out. If you haven't gotten it yet, it's kit number 16 with 3 awesome fragrances. These are the fragrances right here. It's not Dolce, but it's a Sospiro's Vibrato. It's a Dodo Jackfruit Edition and Murmur d'Ete. 3 awesome fragrances, and the kit is selling right now. It's linked in the info box. And the reason I'm bringing it up now is because I am featuring Sospiro's Dolce Melodia. And it does have a note of pear, but Vibrato by the same brand is in the current kit. But Dolce Melodia, as I said, I've featured quite a bit in videos. I've highlighted it quite a bit. And also, it was the first Sospiro fragrance we featured in a Scent Club kit. So I was grateful enough to get Vibrato this time as well. But this is a fruity floral with an intensity that I really like. It has great sillage, great projection, really super long lasting. It's powdery, it's ambery, and it's also woody, but super fruity and floral and fresh up top that garners compliments. I know it's a popular one from this house. Maybe I had something to do with it because I really love it. And again, it garners me compliments and I can feel the fragrance when I wear it, you know? Some fragrances tend to be wimpy and you can't feel it. It can't even smell it on you, even though you've spritzed like 10 sprays on. This stuff, super potent. And when you're walking, you're smelling yourself, you're leaving that trail. It's amazing. But what I really love about it is it's a really, really awesome take on a fruity floral fragrance. Super robust. Same thing here. The pear is there. It supports the fragrance, but it's not about the pear. It's the way it blends with all the floral notes, the citruses, you know, the other fruits that are in here, the musky notes, the woods, and eventually the ambery touches in the dry down. But superb fragrance. Absolutely love it. Dolce Melodia. Let me know if you pick out the pear in that more than everything else, or do you just pick it up as a nice blend of all the notes? Do add a comment below. Then we're going to the house of Bon Parfumeur. This is 203. So it says Framboise, Vanille, Mûr. Framboise is black raspberry. Vanille is vanilla. Mûr is blackberry, I believe. So these are the notes that they're highlighting. So the pear is not listed as one of the top notes, but it's prominent. But once again, it's blended in nicely with the other fruits. The other fruits are a bit stronger, the raspberry and the blackberry, but you definitely pick up the pears in this as well. But it warms up with the vanilla. There's musks and woods in the dry down as well. But let me know if you're a fan of the house and the fragrances. They do have some really great fragrances. Even though the fragrances might come off a bit simplistic from this house, you know, maybe a bit young, I think if you dig through, you'll find some really awesome fragrances. Here, I can totally smell the pear, but the fruitiness of the pear is blended with the fruitiness of the raspberry and the blackberry as well. This is what's kind of dominating right now. We've got that. There's a little bit of rose and jasmine in here as well. But eventually it becomes deeper. It becomes vanillic, ambery, and to dry down and musky as well. This might come off feminine once again. It does act a little feminine. This also does smell a bit mass, a little bit. But there are some great fragrances from the house that might come off a bit less mass appealing. There's nothing wrong with it being mass appealing. It smells better than some mass market fragrances, but there is a little bit of a quality of this fragrance that does smell a bit mass market, if that makes sense. So that is Bon Parfumeur's 203. Let me know if you're familiar with that. It does have pear in the notes for sure, but lots of other fruity notes in that one. Next, we're going to a fragrance called Nude. Nude by the House of Myth, a Thai house called Myth. Let me know if you're familiar with this. This is also a fragrance created by Canton Biche. So this is definitely a fragrance that he's created. It's got his signature touch. To me, there are reminders of something like Neroli Amara, which he created for Van Cleef & Arpels. Maybe a little bit of Valaya that he created for Parfums de Marly. Maybe a little bit of Fleur Narcotique he created for Ex Nihilo. So it is his signature touch. But this is fruity, it's fresh, it's floral. There's watery touches in here. There's ozonic touches in here. It's a nice concoction. It might come off a bit simplistic. It also might come off a bit feminine, but I think he's done a good job. And if you're familiar with his fragrances, you know, the fragrances I mentioned, the Neroli Amara, the Valaya, the Fleur Narcotique, and these kind of fragrances, you will be reminded of this. It doesn't smell identical to those, but in there you can kind of get a hint or something similar about it that might connect you with the other fragrances that he's created. It's quite powdery as well, even though it has watery notes and ozonic notes in there. That is Nude by the House of Myth. Let me know if you're familiar with Nude. Okay, then we have a neighbor perfumer, I should say, or in the same company is even better. This is a fragrance from the house of LFSGQUESTIONS. It's Pluie sur Halong. I know this name is not the easiest to say. This is created by Sonia Constant, and this is Sonia Constant is from Givaudan, where Quentin Biche is also. This is the super watery fragrance. It has water flowers like water lily and lotus flower, and I feel like those flowers and pears do have a great connection, because there is a watery effect when you smell pears, and they kind of connect and blend beautifully together. This has the note of nashi pear, but there's also other floral notes in here in addition to the lotus and the water lily. There's also rhubarb, there's neroli, there's cyclamen, magnolia. So it's a fruity, floral, watery, aquatic, ozonic fragrance. I mean, if you like the smell of water, literally like the water smell with the watery floral notes, this will satisfy. So because it's got that watery smell, it also kind of comes off like fresh, like refreshing, invigorating, because it's got that wet experience. Yeah. Slightly under there, there's a slight there's a slight cucumberiness, because it's got a bit of an ozonic touch. They're not mentioning violet leaves, but I'm picking that up. So it's probably some kind of an accord created in the formula that's acting like that, but almost like a sweet cucumber rather than savory, I guess. I love cucumbers, one of my favorite treats to have. So this gives me that kind of a vibe, but too like overly fruity, like really fruity and also floral. So that is Pluie sur Halong from the house of LFSGQUESTIONS. Are you guys happy, or I shouldn't say happy, are you guys enjoying this house? Do you enjoy their fragrances? They are now sold at ZGO Perfumery in San Francisco. So if you're a fan of Sonia Constant's work or fragrances, you should definitely check those fragrances out. She's a perfumer that's done several fragrances that I really enjoy from Tom Ford. But that brand, LFSGQUESTIONS, even though I enjoy quite a bit, there is a little bit of a feminine touch about that brand. Nothing wrong with that, by the way. I enjoy a lot of their fragrances. In fact, Poème de Sagano from that brand is so super amazing. One of my favorite fragrances from the house. But when you compare it to some of the fragrances I know that she's created for Tom Ford, like Ombre Leather, and of course, Noir Extreme Parfum, they seem to be a bit more rough and masculine. The fragrances of LFSGQUESTIONS do seem a bit more delicate, and there's definitely a feminine touch about them. Again, which I said there's nothing wrong with it, but I kind of get that from the brand. But let me know what your thoughts are on LFSGQUESTIONS. Do add a comment below. Let's move on to the next fragrance from the House of Mind Games. It's Queenside. This is a fairly new fragrance, and as soon as I put my nose on it, I thought this is a Chypre style fragrance, because there's a lot of patchouli here. It's a fruity Chypre. You know what it's reminding me of? Mugler had a fragrance in their upper end collection. I think it was called Les Exceptions. Is that what it was called? Whatever happened to that collection? Is Mugler bringing it back? Anyway, I thought it was relaunched, but I think they relaunched in the different regions of the world. But this reminds me a little bit of Chypre, which is a Mugler Les Exceptions collection. I kind of like Chypre a little bit more because the patchouli was more amped up. This is a lot fruitier, but I believe Chypre was also a fruity Chypre, and I think it also featured pear, if I'm not mistaken. It could be maybe no fruits or a light fruitiness, but again, the patchouli in that fragrance was a bit more amped up. Here, it's very fruity. It's almost like fruit jammy. The pear is so super strong. There's also cassis here and lychee fruit. There's a lot of aromatics and white and green floral notes here. And of course, we've got patchouli and mossy notes or oak moss, musk. So because we've got the oak moss and the patchouli and then lots of fruits, it for sure gives me the Chypre vibes, totally 100%. Let me know if you guys are fans of fruity Chypres. Let me know if you're a fan of Chypre style fragrances. They are slowly coming back. I feel like they do launch them every once in a while. I think Chypres fell out of love because of the banning of the ingredients by IFRA. Oak moss was one of them. But I think they're learning to work with oak moss again, using the parts, scientifically, they're using the parts of the oak moss that is not allergen, that is not an allergen. At least that's what I've read. But Chypre style fragrances are some of my favorites. If you enjoy Chypre style fragrances, just type into my channel CHYPRE, Chypre, which actually stands for Cyprus, but not the tree, but for the island of Cyprus. And you can find out a lot about Chypre style. I've got a list of 20 plus designer Chypres, and then also cheap Chypres on the channel. And of course, throughout the lifetime of my channel, you'll also see other mentions of Chypre style fragrances. But Queenside to me is certainly a fruity Chypre, 100%. That's what it smells like. It's an overdose of a jammy fruitiness with the mossy, musky, patchouli base. And the other thing I should say about this before I move on, this is acting quite powdery. I kind of wish it was not as powdery as it is. I wish the fragrance was a bit more glossy, sticky, syrupy, rather than powdery and dusty. But I think it's a pretty good execution for the fragrance. I like the way it smells. And for sure, I really do enjoy the Chypre style. Let me know if you've sampled Queenside by Mind Games. Are you guys fans of Mind Games? Do add a comment below so I can find out. All right, guys, we've got only a few more fragrances left. If you haven't subscribed to my channel yet and you enjoy watching more deep dive style videos, please do subscribe to the channel and also click that bell icon so you'll be notified for future videos and you don't miss out on any of my videos. Also, please give a thumbs up for this video and it'll help with the algorithm and more people will find the video. But let's move on to the next fragrance. We've got two fragrances from the house of Hermès. First is Herbe Vive, H24 Herbe Vive. So this one has a note of, let's see, it's the Pear Granita note that's in here with aromatic notes. It's turned out to be my favorite of the H24 fragrances because it's a bit more fun and playful. The OG EDP I enjoy quite a bit as well. But for me, it's ice cold, fresh, invigorating, clean, and fruity at the same time. But there's a lot of aromatic touches here because it's got a note called cycle, which is like a minty aromatic note. Plus there's herbal bouquet in here, a fresh herbal bouquet. I think Hermès does some good work. I'm a fan of Christine Nagel's creations. I know some people do not like her creations. I think she did really good here. I wish the collection, the H24 collection, didn't come off a bit wimpy though, because I feel like the fragrances are created in a way that they might act a bit light, not beefy. But once you get past that, Herbe Vive is so good. I really, really love it. It's so super clean and fruity and aromatic. And let me know if you're a fan of Herbe Vive by Hermès in the H24 collection. Do you enjoy wearing that? I think it's a great summer fragrance. And because it has that ice cold effect, the Pear Granita, you have this cooling effect when you're wearing it. I do enjoy that collection. It's definitely solid. And for me, I'm happy because sometimes men's fragrances smell very similar. So similar from one to the other. And that is breath of fresh air. It doesn't smell at all like any other men's fragrances out there. It's totally original, which is why I would give them credit for doing this fragrance like this. So I think I did this in the wrong order. I was supposed to talk about this Hermès fragrance first, but I jumped around. But either way, this is Un Jardin sur le Toit. Toit? So a lot of people say that these two are similar. I think the Un Jardin sur le Toit is created by Jean-Claude Helena. The Herbe Vive is created by Christine Nagel. I never thought of them being similar, but I think this similar idea. This fragrance has pear and apples. It has aromatic notes. And it's got this kind of... I'm smelling it, and the notes breakdown says fresh cut grass, but I pick up something more minty, aromatic. There's a mintiness under there for sure. Let's see if this... So this is a tester. It does say fruity, vegetal, and floral. I could see some somewhat vegetal touches. But that collection, the Un Jardin collection, is a great collection from Hermès. I really love it. Started out with the Un Jardin on Méditerranée. At least that's the one I bought, but I believe they launched with the Un Jardin sur le Nil. One of those two came first, and I can't remember. But they've got some great fragrances in that collection. I really enjoy them. And this is definitely one of them. But I get a mintiness from this fragrance. And even though it's not mentioned, there's definitely like apples and pears sprinkled with dried mint or something, kind of a combo. But super green, super fresh, and fruity at the same time. Definitely one of the best from this house. I hope it's still selling. I think Hermès is a pretty good house for original fragrances. It's not like Chanel where they don't launch a lot of fragrances. They stay around and then they give you this flanker that's like extremely expensive for a signature line fragrance. Although I think the fact that that's expensive is also because prices of fragrances have gone up. But still, paying $300 for a men's designer fragrance with tax is way too high. But I like what Hermès does. They don't overwhelm you with too many releases, but they don't also just stay behind the scenes and keep pushing the same fragrance over and over again. There's variety out there, which I like with Hermès. And I find Hermès to be quite classy. Let me know if you're a fan of Hermès in comparison to Chanel. Add a comment below. And let me know if you're a fan of these two fragrances, H24 Herbe Vive and Un Jardin sur le Toit. That's the name of that one, if you can see it. All right, we've got two fragrances left. First fragrance, and remember also, I mentioned that the more down to the beginning, like at the very end of the list we get, the least pear we're gonna have. So these are not as pear full, and they might have pear, but they have other fruits as well. And some of those other fruits are a bit more. But this one does have pear, but I feel like the pear is so light, but I'm featuring it here because it does have pear listed as a note, and I think it works great with the types of notes that are in here. This is Coeur Premier from the house of Les Eaux Primordiales. Are you guys familiar with this one? Les Eaux Primordiales has become a favorite fragrance house of mine. It's definitely top 5, and actually it could be top 2. I really enjoy Une Nuit Nomade almost equally as much as Les Eaux Primordiales. Really love the fragrances of these two French houses. Fairly new French houses. And there's a few others that I enjoy out there as well, which I've been planning on doing a video of my top 10 favorite sort of modern French fragrance houses. Let me know if you guys want to see that video. I might do that as a deep dive video like this as well, because the videos are, quite detailed and there's a lot of info to be packed in a video. So I might do that. But I'm a big fan of this house. This was the very first fragrance I bought from this house. Back in 22, I bought it from Javoy. And even though the brand was launched in 2015, I think this is their 10-year anniversary, I heard about the house just a little before when I bought this. So I'm not sure how I have missed the house, but I do enjoy the fragrances of this house quite a bit. This is an aldehydic balm. It has musks, peony, pear, jasmine. There's rosy touches. And of course, it's got ambroxan and a lot of aldehydes. You might be reminded of Lazy Sunday Morning, Blanche by Byredo and things like that with this fragrance. And maybe even something like Acne Studios, because lots of aldehydes between both fragrances. But they for sure go in different directions, because there's no smoky notes in this one. And Acne Studios, I believe, has like frankincense or olibanum listed. But lots of musks here. And again, pear and musks work wonderfully together. Remember, we started with Kunamo. It's a pear and musky combo. It's a great combo together. And here, Color Premier is so super aldehydic, but also super, super musky. And delicate notes. The pear, the peony are quite delicate notes. They don't stand out too much. And they work wonderfully with the aldehydes and the musky notes. Of course, there's jasmine and rose in this as well, but they are even further faint. But again, the pear is not getting in the way of the most important note here, aldehydes. And aldehydes has that effervescence. It's clean, it's a bit sharp and metallic, but it's crisp. So it's a fragrance that when you, it's a note that when you smell aldehydes in fragrances, I'm so familiar with aldehydes, and the one fragrance that always comes to mind is Chanel No. 5. That doesn't smell like Chanel No. 5, by the way, but if you think of aldehydes and think of Chanel No. 5, you might think it might smell like Chanel No. 5, but for me, what I'm trying to say is the aldehydes in this will remind you of Chanel No. 5, but the fragrance itself will not remind you of Chanel No. 5. But to me, there's always a reminder of Chanel No. 5 as soon as I put my nose on, and it's a dominant aldehydic fragrance. But anyway, Color Premier does feature pear, but again, it's not the main star. It's not the main or focal point there. It's all about the aldehydes with the musks, with the delicate touches of the pear and the peony. And the last fragrance I'm going to talk to you about, God, I haven't spoken about this fragrance in ages. It's Moschino's Toy Boy. You guys familiar with this? This was a pretty popular fragrance when it first came out. I actually bought it in Italy, in Florence. They had just put it out. Once again, it's got musky notes, and it's got rosy notes and fruity notes. There's a little bit of smoky, citrusy notes in here as well. It's a very unique composition, but super awesome. I actually really like it. I couldn't remember it for a while because I bought that in 2019 and I spoke about it quite a bit along the way, but I haven't pulled it out for a long time. But I can see the pear in this. It's providing that light, juicy fruitiness, but there's so much other things going on in here. There's pink pepper, there's rose, there's lots of musky notes and floral notes as well. It's a really great composition, I think. Yeah, what do you guys think of Moschino's Toy Boy? The little bear is actually kind of gotten a little dirty or something. All right, that's pretty much it with the pear note, guys. This turned out to be more of a deep dive video rather than an edited video. But I actually set out to do an edited video, but since it's dragged so long, there's no way it's going to be edited down because that'll cost way too much money. But there's 20 fragrances featuring pear. Let me know what your thoughts are on these pear fragrances. Add a comment below. Do you enjoy them? Do you hate them? And let me know what else is out there as far as pear goes. This is all I had in the studio, and it turned out to be exactly 20. But there's probably around maybe 100, 200 more pear fragrances out there. Do let me know. Add a comment below. And thanks so much for watching. As I said, if you haven't bought your kit, please do. It's selling right now. It's got a great collection of fragrances. And again, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please subscribe. Click that bell icon. And please give a thumbs up for this video. See you guys later. Bye-bye.